is blowing out there, you guys. Blowing. This is a storm coming in, and it is going nuts. Let me show it to you. Yeah, so big storm coming in, but lots of lightning and thunder outside. We're safe in the garage, and I am a few days behind on these videos, and I apologize, but it has been so crazy hot. So hot. We had like 97 degrees or something insane. That's why I'm out here in the garage. It's like 8 o'clock in the evening. So if you're watching this in the future, it's in July 2023. And what are we going to be talking about today? Cue the thumbnail once again. But guys, I really have been dying to talk to you about this next chapter. I feel ridiculous calling it a chapter. Let me show you how long this chapter is, okay? There's of Thingol and Melian, and there you go. It is like a 1.5 pager, but short, but extremely sweet. This is such an incredibly sweet story, you guys. And I'm not gonna, as always, I'm not gonna read the whole thing to you. I'm just gonna point out the things that jump out at me. But the basic story, Thingol is the elf, and Melian is not. Melian was a Maya of the race of the Valar. And if you have not been watching along here, and you've never read the Silmarillion, and you don't know what a Valar is, I think the best equivalent that might make it easy to understand is kind of like archangel type supernatural beings that inhabit the world. But they're more than that. They helped and assisted with the creation, and they sort of order things, and there's like divisions among them as far as what their responsibilities are. Oh, for a second I thought we lost power. We did not lose power. It was just the garage light going out. So the Valar are these supernatural powerful beings, and a Maya is one class of the Valar. Melian was a Maya of the race of the Valar. Oh, good example. I'll tell you another example of a Maya. You've heard of Gandalf is a Maya. Balrogs are Maya. Any of the like crazy supernatural beings in Lord of the Rings and in Mr. Tolkien's universe are possibly Maya. You can make the argument that perhaps Tom Bombadil is a Maya. Perhaps Treebeard is. Anyway, let's not get off track here. She dwelt in the gardens of Lorien. Now, that does not mean in Lothlorien, the land of the trees from the Fellowship of the Ring. And here comes the rain. Lorien is another Valar. It's a person. She dwelt in the gardens of Lorien, and among all his people there were none more beautiful than Melian, nor more wise, nor more skilled in songs of enchantment. So she's the wisest, most beautiful, and most enchanting of all of her people. Okay, so she's a knockout. And it's told that when she was singing, everybody would stop what they were doing. Birds would stop. Everybody would stop whatever they're doing to listen. Basically, all of nature would just be silent and listen to her when she was singing. Nightingales went always with her, and she taught them their song. So she taught the nightingales how to sing their song. This lady is something. In the time when the Quendi, that's the elves who spoke, in the time when the Quendi awoke beside the waters of Cuiviénen, she departed from Valinor and came to the hitherlands. Thunder? That was a good one. So she left Valinor when the elves awoke and came across the sea to Middle Earth and came over to the land where the elves woke up. And there she filled the silence of Middle Earth before the dawn with her voice and the voices of her birds. So it was super quiet when those guys woke up, and she came over and filled the entire world, that area, with sound. Now we talked last chapter about the Teleri, who had resisted coming across to Valinor, whereas the Noldor went ahead of them, but eventually the Teleri did catch up. When their journey was near its end, the people of the Teleri rested in Beleriand, and at that time a lot of the Noldor were still westward. So Elwë, Lord of the Teleri, remember there was Elwë and Finwë and Olwë. Elwë, Finwë, and Olwë, those are the three big boys, big baddies. So Elwë, remember I talked to him about being Elwë Singolo, who would eventually be called Thingol. This is the guy. Elwë, Lord of the Teleri, went often through those great woods to seek out Finwë, his friend, in the land of the Noldor. It chanced on a time. That's a really funny way of putting that. I love that. That is so medieval. It chanced on a time that he came alone to the starlit wood of Nan Elmoth, and there, suddenly, he heard the song of the nightingales. Wonder who's here. I'm going to read some of this section because it's so stirring. I find it very touching and I find it very sweet, so I'm sorry if you don't. Then an enchantment fell on him, and he stood still, and afar off beyond the voices, he heard the voice of Melian, and it filled all his heart with wonder and desire. He forgot then utterly all his people and all the purposes of his mind, and following the birds under the shadow of the trees, he passed deep into Nan Elmoth and was lost. So he gets lost in the woods, but he came at last to a glade open to the stars. And remember, the sun's never come up yet. There hasn't been a sun or a moon yet. That doesn't exist. It's just stars all the time. It's only stars. He came at last to an open glade to the stars, and there Melian stood. And out of the darkness he looked at her, and the light of Aman was in her face. The light of heaven is in her face. She spoke no word, but being filled with love, Elwë came to her and took her hand, and straightway a spell was laid on him, so that they stood thus while long years were measured by the wheeling stars above them, and the trees of Nan Elmoth grew tall and dark before they spoke any word. You guys, he took her hand, and he was enchanted, and they stood there for years. How long? Centuries? 1,000 years? Oh, there goes the splash of water right in the door. Come on! Guys, come on. We're nicely back here. We're all the way back in the back of the garage. Ah! You can't go back any further. Ah! It's blowing right in. We're almost done, though. Then Elwë's folk who sought him found him not. And Olwë took the kingship of the Teleri and departed, as is told. So Olwë had to take over as king of the Teleri, and they left Elwë. They said, we're never going to see this guy. We don't know what happened to him. Remember, I said it could have been hundreds and hundreds of years. It could have been thousands of years. Elwë Singolo came never again across the sea of Valinor, so long as he lived, and Melian returned not thither while their realm together lasted. But of her there came among, oh, this is super important, listen to this. Of her there came among both elves and men a strain of the Ainur, who were with Iluvatar before Ea. So she has a strain of the Ainur with her, who was with Iluvatar, which is God, from the beginning. In after days, he became a king renowned, and his people were all the Eldar. The Sindar they were called. So this is how they're called, the Sindar. The Sindar are the people who will become Thingol's own people. The Noldar went across, the Teleri stayed, and now they've left, and his people who stay here with him will be the Sindar. You guys know a Sindar. Legolas was Sindar. The Grey Elves, the Elves of the Twilight. King Greymantle was he, Elu Thingol in the tongue of that land. Melian was his queen, wiser than any child of Middle Earth. Like I told you, she was the wisest person. And if you ever wanted to know how Galadriel got so wise and smart and powerful, she lived with Melian and Thingol for a very long time. Later on, we'll get to it. Melian was kind of like a adoptive mom to her almost. Great power Melian lent to Thingol, who was himself great among the Eldar, for he alone of all the Sindar had seen with his own eyes the trees in the days of their flowering. You remember the three guys went across and saw the trees and then came back to get the rest of the elves and say, come on, we're going to see you. So he alone among the Sindar had seen the trees. And although he was the king of these people, he was not counted among the Morriquendi. Remember, the Morriquendi are the elves who have not seen the light. They are darkness. Dark is dark. The word Mor means dark, like Mordor, Morannon, Black Gate, Black Land. So the Morriquendi were the elves who had not seen the light, so they're called Morriquendi. But he was not counted among them. He was counted with the elves of the light. And of the love of Thingol and Melian, there came into the world the fairest of all the children of Iluvatar that was or shall ever be. Who do you guys think the fairest of all the children of Iluvatar that was or ever shall be, is someone who comes of the love of Thingol and Melian. I know who it is, but I'm not going to tell you. You can put it in the comments if you know who will come from the love of Thingol and Melian. Who will be the fairest of all the children of Iluvatar that was or shall ever be? That's it. I told you it was short, and I told you it was sweet. One of my very favorite. It's so easy to read, to sit down and just read this little 1.5 pager, to just put this great story right into your heart. Next, we're going to be doing chapter 5. That's going to be called The of Eldamar and the Princes of the Eldaili. We will get to that. Let's see how long it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5 pages, something like that. So that'll be another quickie. So let's move our bookmark. Magnetic bookmark. You have been moved. And we are done with today, and I will talk to you in a day or two. Thanks for watching, and be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a single chapter of the Quenta Silmarillion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!